So, you know, with everybody's talking about the Pope coming, you know, he's leaving for Cuba in a few days, and I thought I'd speak a little bit about the role, if any, or the importance of what seem to be extraordinary figures. You know, the Buddha is called the world-honored one, and I remember at my installation, if you've ever seen the installation of the sensei, you know that they recite the names of all the great teachers in sequence, and after each one we're supposed to say, honored one, honored one, honored one. So, I mean, there's something going on there. Not to mention, you know, we call, you know, His Holiness, you know, the Pope. The other person who's called His Holiness, of course, and throughout the world is the Dalai Lama. Yeah. So I mean, it's across traditions. These are important. And the Pope is called the Vicar of Christ. You know, it's a later title. But the trick is, I mean, if you really examine this in terms of the actual dignity of the person, in whichever case. And I've said this in sermons, you know, we're all the Vicar of Christ. You know, in fact, we're all Christ. Never mind the Vicar of Christ. You know, we don't stand in for Christ. The Pope doesn't stand in for Christ. The Pope is Christ, and so are we. So there isn't any intrinsic difference of intrinsic dignity. And believe me, the Dalai Lama would be the very first one to say, you know, I may be the Buddha, but you're the Buddha too. All of you, anybody. And that's a very important lesson, you know, to get when you're practicing in any religious tradition. And there are a number of koans, of course, which point that out. The very short koan at the beginning of the Blue Cliff record, where, you know, the student asks, "Who is Buddha? What is Buddha?" And the teacher says, "You are Eko." He says the person's name, but he's really saying, "You are Eko," or "You are James," or "You are Judy," "You are Buddha." Don't be looking for anywhere else for Christ or Buddha or whatever the ultimate mystery is. It's right within. It's you. So we have to have that kind of immediate connection. You know, it's not necessarily, you know, devotion to teacher, but above all, it's an immediate connection to the reality. One of the frequently quoted koans in that respect is the 39th one in the Mamonkan, where it's called a mistake in speaking. A monk said to Master Uma, "The brilliance of the Buddha silently illuminates the whole universe." Well, exactly, that's what we're saying. The brilliance of the Buddha silently illuminates the whole universe. But before he could finish the verse, Uman said, "Aren't those the words of so-and-so, you know, the writer, Shosetsu?" "Yes, they are," the monk said. It's like quoting the Bible, quoting the scriptures, quoting the, you know, the great masters, the poets, the spiritual writers. And Umon said he's not impressed. He says, "You've slipped up. You made a mistake in your speaking." How so? Well, because he was speaking somebody else's words. And that's a little bit the danger when you've got scriptures and documents and quotes that you can take from, you know, whether it's a sacred author or the Pope or a Dalai Lama, because is it really yours? I mean, obviously they can be helps, but I mean, those things have to, the reality of it has to come from you. And, you know, that's, well, I'll come back to the point of, you know, what the role of the teacher is. But there's you know, there are a number of good koans to illustrate this point again. The 86th one in the Blue Cliff record, and you'll see immediately from the title, Umon, the same person we just saw in the last koan, everybody has his own light. This little light of mine. Okay, so this is what we have, you know, within us. So Umon spoke to his assembly and said, everybody has his own light. In Christian terms, it's the indwelling of the Spirit, the Christ is within us. I mean, if he tries to see it, if the person tries to see that light, everything is darkness. Why? Because it's not so much that the person has the light, the person is the light. Everything is the light. Everything is Christ. It fills the universe in all its parts. Everything is the Buddha. So if you, quote, whoever you think you are, tries to stand back and behind it to see it, well, it doesn't work. It goes dark. Because you can't separate yourself, the seer from the seen, or the light from the enlightened. It's all light. It's all consciousness. It's pure consciousness. So you can't try to see the light. You are it. You have to wake up to that. Rediscover that. So in that sense, it's inaccurate to say everybody has his own light. Everybody is the light. So what is everybody's light? Humon says. So what is it? Tell me more. This gets better. And later, he answered the question himself and said, what is everybody's light? The halls and the gate. What? That's everybody's light? The halls and the gate? Well, if the Buddha is everything, if Christ fills the universe in all its parts, then what isn't Christ? What isn't the light? What isn't Buddha? So the hall and the gate, and the toads and the dustpans and the persons and the stars and the trees, it's all the light. It's all the Buddha. It's all Christ. So the hall and the gate too. And if you don't see it in the hall and the gate, or if you don't realize you are it as the hall and the gate, well, then you may have the intrinsic dignity, but you haven't woken up to it yet. And we're going to come back to that point in a minute. And again he said, blessing things cannot be better than nothing. Blessing things cannot be better than nothing. What does he mean? Well, it means that everything's blessed already. In this nothingness, in its pure openness, in its pure union with everything. You can't add a blessing to it. I mean, to change it itself, like it might change your consciousness, which that's interesting. But, it doesn't actually change. Make anything holier. Everything is already Christ. It's going to be holy. The hall and the gate. Reminds me of that response to Bodhidharma to the emperor when the emperor said, "Who is this in front of me?" He said, "What are the holy doctrines?" First of all, and Bodhidharma said, "Nothing holy. No scriptures. Nothing is holy. In other words, nothing is separate from the mystery. Everything is it. Same idea, the same reality." So then the emperor says, "Well, who are you standing in front of me?" And Bodhidharma says, "No, nothing. I don't know." Which is the ultimate mystery of any person or anything. As soon as you put a name to it, like Pope or Dalai Lama or whoever you are, well then you got to be careful that you don't limit it. It's beyond titles. Just like the suffering servant of Isaiah 53, when you did, no one would even look at it. The nothingness, that's where you can find it, undisguised, oddly enough. Same master in the next koan. Whom once said to his disciples, "Medicine and sickness cure each other." We get the medicine cures sickness part, but what about the sickness cures medicine? Well, there's a little clue in the next line. All the earth is medicine. Okay? So the hall and the gate and the sand and all the earth is medicine because anything can wake you up, can cure you, can make you realize that you're it, and along with everything else. Remember, that's what the Buddha said when he was enlightened. The Buddha himself said, "I and the whole earth have found the path." So the whole earth, all the earth is medicine. So where do you find yourself? So that's there, in everything. If you do. waking up to it. And remember the story where the gods, the Hindu gods, asked the Buddha, "Where should we erect a sanctuary?" And talk about holiness again. And they simply planted a blade of grass in the earth, and that was the temple. Because the hall and the gate, the sand and the blade of grass and everything is it, and you, and everything. So you don't need to build special temples or have special Vaticans or popes or Tibetan monasteries. It's all it. It's all it. So all the earth is medicine. Manjusri, the gate bodhisattva of wisdom, once asked an earnest Zen student, just like you guys, earnest Zen students, to bring him something that was not a medicine. When Zensei could find nothing that wasn't medicine. Exactly. So Manjusri said, "We'll bring him something that was definitely medicine." And he brought him a blade of grass. Same thing. A blade of grass. Everything is right there. Blade of grass. And by the way, how sickness cures medicine. Well, just what I'm saying about, all the formalities of religion, well, the formalities of religion, including Buddhism, can become poison once you're cured. Because they get in the way. You get attached to the forms and the scriptures and the robes and the titles, and you're doomed to become a Pharisee. So it's a scaffolding. It's something that's beautiful and helpful, but don't get attached. That's when the medicine becomes a poison. Because medicine is only medicine if you're sick. But once you're not sick anymore, you don't need the medicine, right? I mean, you can stay in the church, you can stay in the monastery, but you're free. You've gotten help. So those are important insights. So now, when we come back to the notion of what's the use of a pope or a Dalai Lama or a teacher, anything of honored ones. So you see, the point is they're not better than anybody else. The New York Times today, one of the prisoners in Philadelphia, one of the young women that's going to meet the Pope, said, she's thrilled, but she said, well, then she's just another person like us, which is exactly right. He's just another person. So in terms of intrinsic dignity, there's no difference. Pope or king or hangman or hanged man or whatever, it's all one. But in terms of waking up to, being cured, being aware, knowing that, rediscovering yourself, that's where the difference is. In terms of acquired consciousness, awakened consciousness, that's the difference. So that's where, a Pope or Dalai Lama or any teacher can be of help, because they're more awake. One would hope. Look at the history of the papacy, but if you say, well, at least the Buddhists, they make sure that the person has had an enlightenment experience before they lay on the hands, so to speak. Yeah, well, look around at all the sex scandals in the Buddhist world, not just the Catholic world, and tell me that that's enough. No, so it's tricky. How much of a consciousness has been evolved, and how much should you depend? That's why what a real teacher does, stand back, you give what you can, and let the person take what he or she will. And you never, ever, ever mold the student or mold in your image. You facilitate the person, as best you can, you facilitate and promote and further and encourage the discovery by that person, the rediscovery of their own Buddhahood, their own Christness. That's what a teacher does. Focuses totally off himself or herself and completely on awakening the person to their own intrinsic dignity. So anytime you find a guru who has a cult following, you know there's something wrong. Both with the followers and with the guru for establishing that kind of relationship. So in that sense, hopefully the Dalai Lama, for example, is the incarnation of Avalokiteshvara, as he said. So what we try to do is we try to become more and more aware. By the way, they're honored ones too, the bodhisattvas. Manjusri, we just had their story about Manjusri and Avalokiteshvara was, the 14th reincarnation of Avalokiteshvara, the Dalai Lama, whatever it is. I take them as angels, spiritual forces of the cosmos. Take them as archetypes, if you will, within, because that's where the angels are anyway. They're within, as Christ is, as everything is. So they're honored ones as well, but they're you, of course. And finally, we should reach a point, if we're lucky enough, or awake enough, where it's no longer we are profiting and being cured, and we are honoring our teachers, and we are being the teacher. We're no longer just primarily receiving, we're actually giving in the way I just said. Able enough, awake enough to facilitate the awakening in others. That's the ideal for all of us. That's the Bodhisattva vow. That's what it means to be a saint in Christianity. We've not only received the enlightenment of Christ, but you're radiating it to others in whatever your call might be. So, hopefully the Pope Francis is doing that. I think he is. The Dalai Lama certainly. So, and we should be too. So that's the importance of the individual person, who's important, who's significant, who's realized to the extent that they realize they're everybody, and everybody is them. So, some discussion, some comments, some qualifications, reaction.